right, welcome back. Let's just continue our discussion on Child Protection Week. Earlier here on the show, we spoke to the Minister of Social Development, Dr Naeemah, who was basically telling us about the government's programs for this week and specifically how far the government has come in terms of protecting children. We're taking this discussion further with Dr Naeemah Abrahams from the South African Gender-Based Violence and Health Initiative. She's also live from our studios in Parliament. Dr. Abrahams, good morning to you and thank you so much for coming through.
Good morning, Palisa, and thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, just before we talk about the stats and the shocking statistics, talk to us about your NPO or NGO. What does it look into?
Okay, Palisa, there's a big correction I need to make. I am from the South African Medical Research Council. We're a parastatal, so we enacted, in fact, by Parliament to do research on priority research health issues in the country. So I am works with the Gender and Health Research Unit.
All right.
And yeah.
Okay, no, our sincere apologies on that one, Dr. Abrahams, for correcting us. Now, we've just had a conversation with Minister Dr Naeemah about how things are in South Africa. More so if we look into the recent spate of rape and killings, abduction and kidnappings of children in South Africa. Talk to us about the research that perhaps that you have conducted on this issue.
Right. One of the big key research areas that we covered was child homicide. We looked at, in 2009, how many children were killed and by whom they were killed, and we look at their ages as well. So we're really not surprised to see the amount of killings in the media, because we found that 3 children were killed per day in South Africa in 2009.
Those are shocking stats, Dr. Abrahams. But what are the main objectives behind these killings? Were you able to find the reasons for these killings?
Well, what we found was children were vulnerable at different ages. So the very young child, or the infant, we found was the second largest group of children killed. The other big group were in fact teenagers, and those were actually boy-on-boy violence. We shouldn't ignore that, because that is also children being killed when they start going into gangsterism, when violence is just part of being an adolescent in some of our communities. And then there's the group in the middle, the 5 to about 12 years old, and there we found more girls. And what we found was those girls that were killed usually in a situation where rape was also involved. So essentially those girls were killed most likely because they were raped as well. So when we look at this, we need to know that there are different interventions for different age groups. Okay. We also saw differences in boys and girls, particularly, like I said, in the older boys. But the most important group also is the very young children, the children who will not be able to know when there's a stranger, and those children are not killed by strangers. Those are the children that are killed by people immediately around them, their carers. And giving a message around stranger danger, for example, is of no value for that group.
All right, and I would want to believe, Dr. Abrahams, that as much as you're telling us about these shocking stats that 3 children are killed every day in South Africa, some cases go unreported, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Some cases are slipped through our system. So this often happens when the child dies through an injury, or abuse by a parent or some way, but an investigation is not done because it's not picked up and a forensic examination is not done. So those cases are definitely not collected. In fact, when we did our research, we found cases of children who were definitely in a mortuary, and definitely there were abuse, but there was never a case opened. And we forced the police to open a case and to do the investigation. But the bigger problem is children that are not killed, are children who are in abusive relationship and are suffering injuries as well as quite severe mental health, which put them on a pathway of becoming either abusers later themselves or being abused as victims. So we have this intergenerational cycles that continuing, and we really need to have a protection response as well as a response for people who are victims.
Yeah, but what needs to be done going forward? I mean, you've said it yourself that different interventions are sought for different ages, but the overall recommendations that you had in your studies, what needs to be done?
Okay, one of our first recommendations was that know how big our problem is. Do screening, so that we know when we do our interventions, we know that we are decreasing. Now, all over the media, people ask me, is it increasing and decreasing? I don't know, because we're not really good at monitoring information. Like the minister said, they are responsible, social development, for for protecting of children. But there is a simple thing that they can do, a very small thing that they can do, but just do it correctly. It's the Form 22. Form 22 is a form that needs to be completed when a child abuse case is reported to welfare agencies. Now, the Children's Institute has just done a research where they took a sample of children that were reported to child welfare, and they checked to see what happened to those children through the system. And it was very sad to see that many of the children actually fell through the system. Form 22 is a simple form to be completed by social workers.
All right.
And that information is captured by the department. They know who the children are that's been just reported to them, and then make sure that we take care of those children.
All right. No, let's leave it at that for now, Dr. Abrahams, but thank you so much for chatting to us here on Morning Live. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed. There you have it. That's Dr. Naeemah Abrahams from the South African Medical Research Council talking to us about the studies that the council has conducted, of course, and the recommendations, therefore, as we observe Child Protection Week. And let's quickly take an